keep this quick so that Jordi gets a majority of the time here. But you may be familiar with a feature called GitLab CI/CD for GitHub for external repos. And this feature, which I'll put a link in the chat and provide John with them as well, has been made free to use for quite some time now. And I'll also link the blogs that we've written about that. And so this period has an end date. So there is officially an end date for this free usage period for this feature. And the blog went out here today with additional information and some links that I encourage you to check out. So there's also a Slack thread, a comment I left in Slack about 3 messages up if you want to check that out with the relevant links you need. But just to be aware and have visibility in what's going on, the 22nd of March will be the last day for this to be free, and then customers or users rather will need to upgrade to a silver plan or greater. So just wanted to let you know and be aware of that. If you have questions, reach out in Slack. Let us know. If I don't have the answer, I'll find the person that does. That's all I got.
Hey, thanks so much, Parker. All right, Jordi.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yes.
Lovely. I'll share my screen. So hello and welcome all. Hopefully, well, if you, whoops, is that, yeah. Wait, which one I'm sharing? I'm sharing the right one, yeah. A few housekeeping things. I'm not alone. Hopefully my 2 nephews, which are roaming around my house freely, will not interrupt, but these lizards are keeping me very busy today, which also explains this face properly. Please, as John said, mute yourself. Feel free to unmute and ask any question anytime, either in the document or just as I'm talking. The session will last 20 minutes with 10 minutes for questions, and it's basically a walkthrough of the SCM use case resource page. Yeah, basically what this page that you can see here, let me just, I think I already, so yeah. What it contains is all the knowledge that we have of the use case. So that would be, we already concluded and have done research about what the value drivers are, which would be the why, the what, the actual usage of the product would be condensed here, hopefully. It is a work in progress, as you all know, in a very GitLab fashion. This is actually the version 1. So I'm happy to hear your feedback, not only today, but hopefully in the days to come to improve it. You as the sales team and the TAMs are invaluable actually source of information. The actual usage of the product and the knowledge about buyer personas and user personas comes in part from the command plan that you filling in Salesforce. So again, keep going with that because it's a great source of information for us. We also get information from UX for the user personas. We will see it later, from analysts, which we meet constantly, and we read the reports, etc., etc. So basically, I won't go to I won't go into the general context that Parker explained last week, unless you tell me so, about the use case go-to-market and bill of materials, which will that eventually cascades to this. Source code management is one of our main use cases, if not the main, alongside CI. It's one of the gateways to GitLab and one of our most successful stages. It's a bit tricky because we don't control all the product itself. So this is the part that GitLab bases a lot on top of Git, which is, as you all know, an open source project that we do not control, but influence through our own engineers and through the community itself. In any case, source code management, the use case in general is because change is constantly happening in software products, projects, and teams. It basically, it is just required to keep order and to keep control and track of every change that's happening. And there's plenty of changes. I've just listed a few of those that correlate to the different stakeholders, but there are plenty more. I mean, it's probably the tool that keeps sane any single project, any single team, or any single company itself. So the fact that there are a multiplicity of changes and of stakeholders makes the user persona and the buyer persona, but especially the user persona, much more pretty difficult because of the amount of archetypes that are involved in the usage of SCM. But again, we've been working hard with UX to find a few of them that you'll find here. Product managers usually want SCM solutions and will work almost every day with a merge request pane to control the feature progress. They are not so much interested in the commits or the actual pipelines, for example, but rather in the ability to describe what they want and manage the deadlines. For this user persona, there's something interesting coming up that is a differentiator of ours that I'll explain later, is that we are serving personas such as PMs, designers, and anyone that is not working with source code, because those personas would like their assets, which are not source code, but designs, prototypes, data pipelines in the case of data scientists and so on, will be eventually serving all these personas in the merge request. So we have now a group called Knowledge Group that is in charge of the design management category and the wiki category. The design management category is already introducing features that allow for designers to upload designs, for the group, for the team to provide feedback and very specific feedback and so on. So we are starting to acknowledge that development teams are composed of very different user personas, and the source code management has to serve them, their patterns, and the assets they manage. So this is going to be a clear differentiator for us in the future. It is already, no one is doing it. We're in the very initial phases of that, but again, so product managers would benefit from this a lot. Team leads, they're interested in maximizing collaboration. They want to deliver as fast as possible, to connect to CI as fluidly as possible, and they are heavy users of the SCM solution. The software developer would be the core user. He or she is constantly committing changes to his workstation and then pushing them up to the repo. Debugging the potential problems that he runs into, validating or reviewing snippets of code or actual services that his colleagues or her colleagues are committing, and so on. So we're talking about the actual hardcore user of SCM. And finally, DevOps engineer, which I would argue in the past would have been called release manager, or the person that is in charge of actually giving the go-ahead of the release trains, or putting an end to the freeze, to the feature freezes, depending on the type of release management there is. Now it's probably called a DevOps engineer, and is in charge again of making that machinery fluid between SCM and CI. Buyer personas are a bit more tricky. Again, this information comes a lot from the command plan, so thanks a lot for filling that in. Keep that up. But it is usually said, and I think it's quite a reality, you probably know better than I do, that dev teams, which are, again, most of the user personas here, don't have a budget in comparison with ops teams, which do have a budget. So this is validated by the idea that Git is a free tool and it's dominated the market. Latest trends is that 89% of all the SCM usage in the world is through Git, but it's also countered by the fact that they are paying for GitLab. So there is value in making the complexity of Git approachable through a web interface. So we found that two main buyer personas are the key decision makers to go a purchase of SCM. Those would be the VP of IT, so the manager of the software engineer and the team lead, and the VP of application development, which is a sort of like overlapping role, but is more really related to the DevOps engineer, would be the manager of that person. Message House is a work in progress. As I told you, this is version 1 of this site. So I'll ping you and keep you updated with anything that is still to come, which there are a few sections, not many. Analyst coverage. This is a tricky issue because I've been working in this industry for at least 8 years. I mean, specifically on the SEM industry, and I've never managed to attract any big analyst to analyze this. The reason is the one that I just mentioned. They consider Git has overtaken the market, which is true, and they consider there is not enough difference between what I used to call the Git gang. So all of the services that are built on top of Git, namely GitLab, GitHub, and Bitbucket, which was true and is starting not to be true, precisely because of the new features that we're introducing and we will introduce that serve the other types of personas that are not included here, but that the product teams in the market are actually in need of. So that's actually my plan. Oh, by the way, please ignore this. A merge request is coming. There is no total impact of GitLab NCM. That's a mistake, a copy that I did. Probably as soon as I get it merged, there will be a link there to the only report that exists. I mean, there are reports about SCM. They're they're very old, like 2010, so basically useless. There is a report by IDC that addresses the total addressable market in a way. I mean, tries to measure the size of the market and so on. It's not really interesting. It is linked there. It is waiting to be merged. The AR plan, which is not developed yet, but I'm trying to work with Joyce and Ryan on this, is precisely that. We're trying to make SCM relevant again to analysts. How? By making the difference. By telling them that GitLab is different in experience and functionality to the other Git-based services, which is now starting to happen, and hopefully in the near future we will make a dent there, and hopefully again analysts will observe this market again and consider ours in a good position. The key elements of the use case would be the capabilities. So what exactly? I mean, not to the level of a feature, although they are mostly listed here in each of the capabilities, but actually what the demand side of the market is looking for from an SCM, from the ideal SCM feature for them. Are we doing on time, by the way? Okay, 7 minutes left. So we've come up with 7 capabilities. We are still discussing this. It is a hot topic in not only in product marketing, but I'm trying to involve as many people as possible. So if you have any feedback about this page, please open an MR, make an argument and push anything that you consider is an improvement, or because this is a hot topic. The borders of FCM are not clear. In fact, I've been running informally an interview survey with a few people from the industry that I consider relevant. Some of them are really popular programmers, others and so on. And I can't agree, they can't agree, the industry can't agree what is behind SCM. We define it as source code management. You will find source control management. You will find software configuration management and version control, of course. It's not SCM, but I mean, it's not under the acronym of SCM. But so the borders of this category are not clearly defined. In any case, we have so far agreed upon these, and basically, well, the one appeals to the fact that you can manage different types of architectures, so monorepos, service-oriented architectures, so microservices would be one example of those, and in any type of language, and most probably with any type of asset in it. We've connected it also with a value, by the way, you can find it here. And again, I'll encourage you to take a look deeply, because this is actually the fundamental part of the, alongside the differentiators. So take a look at it, provide feedback. We're constantly improving it, and I'm actually looking forward to your feedback on this, because you have your foot on the market, and your information is extremely valuable. Top 3 differentiators that we've come with. So again, the market has been taken over by Git, which is a distributed version control system, but it's not completely taken over by Git. In fact, the the main competitor outside of the distributed version control system would be Perforce, which is a centralized version control system. So the first differentiator is actually that, the fact that GitLab is based on top of a distributed version control system, which allows for geographically distributed working, asynchronous working. You don't rely on a good connection if you don't need it, and so on. So, and we also provide, along with that feature that is actually Git-based, or it belongs to Git, GitLab Flow, which is a methodology, a pattern that is actually very aligned with trunk-based development, or very short-living branches development type, and this is a clear differentiator of us. The fact that we are a single application, probably all the use cases insist on this, and I don't have to insist on this probably, but it is a clear differentiator. And finally, what I was mentioning before, the fact that we are trying to serve through new functionality that the design management category is putting out there, but not only, there's more groups that are just started later last year and now, and are putting out features there that are serving what I'm calling, and I'm trying to make relevant to the analyst, product configuration management. So if SCM addressed developers and people that manage source code, that reality is now different. The reality is that there are no dev teams, or that dev teams or functional teams are morphing into product teams. So hybrid teams that consist of engineers or developers, data scientists, product managers, designers, and there's no one solution for those. And that is what we're trying to achieve. So although it's in a very incipient phase, this is already a key differentiator of ours. Again, this section has been troublesome in a way because analysts are partially right. There's no there's not a big amount of huge differences between, especially the Git-based services. I've got 2 minutes more. Competitive comparison is coming up. A whole list of peer insights from Gartner that you can use. Most of them are obviously related to the user persona research, or they actually validate that research. Case studies, again, probably you've gone through a few of them. Goldman Sachs is a classic here. ESA is very interesting for the fact that they didn't know that they could share so much code between the different teams until GitLab was installed, and they had visibility across projects and teams, especially at the director level, which has helped them save some money. Again, these people are very concerned with the budgets. After all, they are a public institution and they spend the public money. So that is a huge value for them, among other benefits that I encourage you to read. And the last one is actually the most interesting one. You probably already know about it, but in Commit San Francisco this very year in January, there was actually a full presentation by the Northwestern, Mutual? Yeah, Mutual, about why they actually chose GitLab. They had a fragmented code base. What else did what the problems, and obviously a toolshed crisis. They had a lot of tools to connect, keep them updated, plugins and so on. And as soon as they installed GitLab in 8 months, which is not bad, but better than the forecast, things just started to flow so much better. That's a video, and I've also linked the deck there. You've got Salesforce references there. And finally, more product-related videos. So we will come up with presentations with a customer deck as soon as possible, and more marketing-focused and sales-focused video material. But then again, you have here videos that are walkthroughs mainly of the different categories and groups of the pattern and methodology there. Again, design management, and they are obviously, I encourage you to go through them because they will show you the current status of the features of each category and group. So from my side, nothing else other than opening the Q&A question and receiving your feedback to learn more.
So it looks like we have our first question from Simon. Did you want to ask the question yourself, Simon?
Yeah, cheers, John. Jordi, thank you for that. It was very useful to get a recap. I think my question is about how we move customers up the tiers and whether there's value in the higher tiers just for an SCM specific use case.
Oh, that's a tricky question, because most of the SCM, I don't keep up with the amount of features the create stage has, but it's probably the most feature rich stage in our company, and I would argue that most of them, if almost 90% of them, are in the if not in core, they are in starter, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You probably know better, but so this is probably not the best pack of features that would actually move customers to the ultimate tier.
Hey,
But
Jordi.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordi, let me jump in quickly. I've had separate conversations with a couple of folks on the product side, like Mark and others, about the potential for compliance to become a key capability, that if we introduced compliance features that could exist, that would exist at Ultimate, obviously, that if you look at that, that would be something that could apply easily to source code management and create a selling opportunity to say, hey, you're using source code management. Do you want to have a way to ensure and to measure and to track compliance from policies and procedures and controls perspective for what you do with source code management? We don't have it today, but when we do, I think it'll be a case where you will have the opportunity to talk about Ultimate for source code management.
Thank you, John. And Larry has just messaged me as well, saying, and he's quite right, that there's a clear path to premium already for SCM. Regarding
repeat that. There's a what?
There's a clear path to premium already for source control with high availability, GitLab Geo, support SLAs. It's more around the ultimate notion, but John's ready.
Let's see if I can pull it up. Let me find the roadmap issue or the issue, and I'll link to it in our notes.
So we still have a few more minutes. Any more questions?
If you don't, I have a question for the audience.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so question to the audience on this call. As you engage in the market and talk to your customers, of the use cases we're seeing, source code management, protect and manage intellectual property, which is more than just source code, right? It's design, it's other assets, continuous integration, automating build, how you automate, build, and test, continuous delivery. We've got 8 of them listed. Are there others that you're seeing where people are saying, hey, I want to use GitLab to do this specific thing? We introduced infrastructure as code specifically based upon feedback from the community, from the larger community in the field. Are there others where you're seeing customers, prospects saying, I want to use GitLab for this specific situation?
Do you have data science?
Francis, thank you. Data science, we've started at least, we are starting. No, you're not a broken record. In fact, on the topic of data science, coming out of commit, I've got on our team, Brian Glanz started a landing page for data science, a solution page for data science, and we are building out at least I'm not going to call it a use case yet, but it's a kind of a junior concept of a use case for data science, so we can start to capture it.
We also get asked, can you do auto rollback, especially when we talk about canary rollback? I don't know if it's related to today's topic.
Okay, auto rollback as it relates to deploys and continuous delivery?
Yes.
Yes, John, this is a link in the public sector, especially the Navy. We get a lot of requests to essentially wrap all of it together, which is tie the requirement to the deployment to the test scripts that were successful, so that ultimately we can produce a report that says, look, we did the full job from beginning to end. So the lack of kind of reporting capability and tying it all together is where we see kind of we really wish that you guys would do this.
So Link, that would be part of the simplifier end-to-end DevOps use case that we've documented and gotcha on the requirements on that. And good news, by the way, in the next release, the MVC, the first MVC of requirements management, is going to start to show up.
And I'm excited to see it.
It won't be much. Don't get too excited. But it's the first step into the journey for that. So, but it would map into that.
Any step above 0
totally
is
get
a
it.
massive improvement. That's the
Totally get it.
hardest.
Yeah. Yep. And you can reach out to that team and give them a Bravo Zulu when you see it. There you go. That's speaking code that you better understand.
All right, team, I think we have time for one more question.
So not a question, but just another piece of feedback is the question that Simon asked around how this use case plays out in the higher tiers, I think would be a useful thing to be a standard component of all the use cases. It'd be really great to be able to say for any given use case, here's what you get. I don't care about starter, but here's what you get at premium. Here's what you get at ultimate. Here's the value of the higher tier for this particular use case. Super valuable. We need a lot more of that kind of material.
Thank you, Francis. Good feedback. I'll look at how do we add that to this resource page as we build these out. So.
All right, thank you, everybody. I think that wraps up today's meeting. We're going to post this on GitLab Unfiltered later today as a public video. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks.